Warning, this show contains adult language, so viewer and listener discretion is advised. Welcome to another edition of Up and Knitted. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what this show is about, it's entirely dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life raw. Hopefully living off the land, hopefully doing what you want, getting out of this rat race and choosing something. And today's episode 213, and that's what it's about, land use and design for permaculture. And for those of you who don't know what permaculture is, it's basically farming with nature. I'll just leave it at that, right? In a very symbiotic relationship. And today is like a rant sort of a conversation I just had. Somebody contacted me about my garden, my farming techniques. And they have land, and here's what they said. I got 5 acres, and I saw Victory Gardens, and I want to produce a complete closed loop system off my 5 acres. And I want to grow in the dirt, and I don't want use of plastics and things like that. And I says, whoa, that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of design. That's a lot of thinking that would have to go into that. And first of all, flat. It's perfectly flat, like she said, so it's completely usable, all of it. I want to just stop right there and talk about flat. So flat is relatively good, right? That's good. But you know what kind of makes sense more to me, and I haven't designed a piece of land this way yet, is if you actually had a gentle slope, or maybe even something above a gentle slope. Why would you say? Let's think of growing your food like a solar panel, and basically that's what plants are. They need sunshine for photosynthesis. Now, as the sun goes in the wintertime, it has a shallower angle, right? It goes down in the hemisphere across the latitude, and so it shines more at an angle. What happens in flat ground in the wintertime is that trees or shrubs or whatever you're growing are going to get an angular light, and that means they're going to get angular shade behind them, so it kind of limits you. Whereas if you think of land that actually had an incline to it and some sort of slope, that you'd be able to put all your plants and everything in trees, and you would actually be harvesting that much more sun. Because see, you can use nutrients and everything till the cows come home, but you're not going to really get good growth unless you get with everything. Now, there is some stuff that can live in the shade. We'll talk about that if we have time here today. But yeah, everything's needing photosynthesis, and that's when things will grow a lot better. So the other thing that I look at with the gentle slope land is that, just above gentle slope, is that we want water. That's our biggest one too, right? I would say our biggest hurdles in farming and growing our own food, of living off the land, is going to be water, numero uno, and sun, and those things are both interchangeable. You can't have one without the other. So here in Sunnyside, California, what I've been working on is cloud nets. And a cloud net is basically something like a giant screen that goes between 2 poles, and when the mist and the fog, which we get a ton out here living so close to the ocean, hit this net, it actually causes condensation to drip down, and at the bottom of this net there is a trough of some sort. You can make them out of whatever you want, and that collects all that rain and goes down. What I found out is on just underneath 900 square feet of cloud net, you're going to get about 2,500 liters of water a day, and that's a give or take. So that's really awesome. We can do this on flatland too, if you're asking. But the problem is that we're going to have to use a pump to divert this water around where we need on this flat land, whereas if we had a sloped land, we'd be able to move that water or store that water up, say, a few feet or several feet, 5 acres, depending on how wide and narrow it is. If you put all of your cloud nets way at the top, at the highest peak, and made a chain, like a gutter system, and say about, about 50 to 100 feet below those cloud nets is a cistern, water catchment tank that collects all that rainwater day after day at nighttime while you're sleeping, all the rainwater and everything off your roof. Well, right then and there at that 100 feet, and let's just say we have another 500 feet of land, maybe yards, what you'd be able to do is crack that tank, open the valve, and you would use this mainly in the summertime when everything's really, really dry. And what we do is we would cut key lines. We'd cut holes, trenches in the ground, and instead of storing that water in that tank, we would fill up these dredges that are in the soil, these gutter systems, these swales, if you guys are familiar with that, and let that water seep in the ground. Now, what a lot of people don't know about Sunnyside, San Diego, is that we have a lot of clay soil here. So what happens is it gets wet, it absorbs water really, really good. But when there's a huge deluge of rain, if it's dry on most soils, the water's just going to sheet right off and it's going to run down. But when we cut the ground open and let the water saturate inside, what happens is that water gets stored inside the dirt. What does it do? It travels very slowly. It doesn't go anywhere. The dirt actually saves it from dehydrating out, right? A certain amount is going to have to hydrate the soil, but whatever's around it, that's where we start planting trees and shrubs and gardens and things like that. But what happens with this clay soil is when the sun does come out in the summertime, it actually bakes the top of the soil, which is moist, and hardens it like a rock. What happens is that insulates the moisture that's underneath that. That's why we still have stuff growing here. And it stops the sun from actually eating that water by thermal cooling. What am I trying to say here? I'm trying to sound fucking smart, and I'm a dummy. Whatever. The heat can't dehydrate it. It's all skinned over. That water just continues to flow like a slow river underneath your feet. So if we had 2,500 liters a day, and we're able to constantly feed this thing, what would happen? And I have witnessed this on my piece of land I was renting where I had 5 acres. The lime trees and lemon trees at the bottom, we had a nice slope for this place, a very just above gentle slope. Everything was green year round over there. The limes and lemons above, those would get very dry and didn't really produce, I mean, they weren't really even edible. So we're collecting a lot more sunshine. We're able to collect water, just use gravity-fed systems. This can feed your animals and things like that. Now on this way bottom section as well, as I said, it's like a giant underground lake. If the property was perfect. So what I look at is the perfect property would be a slope that comes down and then it like a J, right? And at the bottom is sort of like a tub, and everything kind of collects right there. And that's where you would actually put your vegetable gardens and things like that. And you can intermix some things in the sun, like where your plants get like, I mean, you can survive a lot of like 4 to 6 hours of sunlight a day, even on such things as like tomatoes. But what you can literally do is you can mulch pretty much the whole thing to help keep moisture in that way. But while all that water's coming from the top of your slope down to the bottom of your property, you can literally plant trees and shrubs and things like that. One of the things I look at, like here, is very dry. It's arid, semi-arid, subtropical. And what I would do is I'd plant a bunch of date palms. These date palms will send their roots way down and be able to survive these dry conditions. But the big giant bulb on it, you can think that it's like a catcher's mitt or like an umbrella. And I would shade off my garden with a bunch of these trees strategically planted and designed this way so that my garden would get all the sun from early in the morning, from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock a.m. to 12, let's just say. It would get sun. And right as that sun's starting to circle over, the palm trees are actually going to intercept most of that sun from burning onto my garden. So from noon to 3, let's just say, my garden's completely shaded until about 4 p.m. The sun peaks out again and they get their last couple hours of sun. I mean, it doesn't get dark here till like 8 o'clock. So literally you can get a lot of sunlight for photosynthesis, but those trees are also going to help to stop mitigate the dehydration of the soil there, because at the hottest point. You could even look at things like this as determinate or indeterminate tomatoes, right? The indeterminate tomato bushes are and don't think just tomatoes, think of anything that's vining, cucumbers and things like that. You can literally build yourself some sort of shrub, like agave, let's just say. That's a perfect one, because agave will do really good in the dry conditions that we have here. Aloe Vera is another one. We'd have these all at the base. So these would be blocking the sun from hitting the ground, but these things aren't very tall. So you can literally train a tomato bush. I mean, you can strip half of the tomato bush down from the bottom half, and the upper half is what will actually grow you your fruit. you can actually design yourself some nets and some poles and things like that so your tomatoes are right above the agave, and leave yourself some good walkway and stuff like that. So now we're serving a lot of different purposes as well, where that water is being fed to that lower area. You're creating aloe vera, which is, I drink aloe vera juice every single day. It's good for digestion, it's good for your skin, it's good for everything. You can, the agave, you can make a nice healthy syrup. You can make your own fucking tequila. Just saying, is it legal? Probably not, but, you know, nobody knows what happens when the lights are out at home in the middle of the night, you know, on a starry full moon night. Maybe some moonshine is in effect here. Or you can use it, I was just kidding. I was insinuating you make your own ethanol, but you can probably make ethanol out of that to start your vehicle, especially if you have a diesel truck like the one I'm hearing. That's the background noise. Sorry about that. It's my work commute on the way home. But getting back to it, yeah. You got these cucumbers and tomatoes and all these things able to grow in these areas, and the root system is completely and entirely safe from dehydration and the heat of the sun. If it gets too hot, like I said, you've got those trees there as well to help with that. So let's just say from 6 in the morning till noon, as that sun's shining, it's still just getting the green leaves and giving them photosynthesis, but it's not actually hitting the dirt. And what's intercepting that sun from hitting the dirt is the agave and the aloe vera, which need sunlight as well to photosynthesize. So now you see this whole kind of system of how you can beat or work with Mother Nature instead of against it, right? And there's no plastic, there's no nothing that you would need to do here. And that's just, those are little loopholes. Those are little things right there. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And what I found is that what I'm really excited about is talking to you guys more about this kind of stuff, because I forgot how much that I know and how much I've experienced and practiced and experimented with. And sometimes I think that I ain't got much to say, and I'm like, fuck, dude, you got a lot to fucking say and show. And these are just a few of the things. Yeah, I started talking to this lady about her land. I'm going to go take a look at it. And I told her, I says, for free, just for shits and giggles. But as far as like sustainability, resiliency is what we like to talk about more on this show. On 5 acres, that's kind of pushing it. I mean, you want to produce all your own food. I would say for one person, like comfortably, yeah. But when we're talking like no inputs, right? There's all these people that are like, yeah, man, I grow all my own food on half an acre or something. Baloney. You're feeding yourself salad and things like that, but you're not feeding yourself complete. If you are, you're starving yourself, and you're probably as thin as a rail, and that's not very healthy. When we start integrating animals and things like that, I do have answers though. This woman did say that she was thinking of bringing chicken manures and stuff like that onto the property. Cow manure, horse manure. She lives obviously out in the country. A lot of people don't know that there's lots of salts in these things, so especially if you're container gardening or doing any raised beds and you want to keep that soil going, you don't want to use this in excess. I recommend that you get a soil sample, soil test, have it sent to a lab to find out what you're working with first before you start adding things in. That's where I look at all the problems are, because I mean, the dirt is like an ocean. Your neighbor, 100 feet away from you could have a completely different type of soil, different minerals and stuff in it than you do. But the way I look at it, as far as no inputs, very difficult, but I do think that worm castings is the way. All of your roots and your tomato bushes and things like that, I don't know if they're very, they say that they're not really great for the worms, but I found worms attached to my root systems on my tomatoes, so I think they're just fine. But all the excess of stuff you would grow, moringa, a tree of life, you can feed this to the fodder to your animals. You can eat it. It has every vitamin and mineral to supposedly sustain any living thing on the planet just off that alone. I've heard some pros and some cons about that, but we don't have time to talk about that today. But yeah, worms will do all the work for you. I would say any scraps that you have, instead of starting compost piles and things like that, to me, get yourself a worm bin. And we're talking large scale here too, like 4 by 100 feet, and get them all set up to where they're taking care of you, where they're eating everything for you, right? And sorry, I got distracted right there. I'm pulling into my house here. But they'll be doing all the work night and day for you. They'll keep the soil moist, and you'll get way more benefit of fertilizer than you would off of chicken manure and stuff like that. This stuff's slow release. It's got a root worm castings actually have, believe it or not, nature knows what it's doing. They have a casing around them, and this promotes, it's like a root hormone, the chemical around it. So it promotes roots to start growing. That's why things do good when the worms show up. So many, many things. I want to continue this discussion further into detail. I'd like to know what you guys want to hear about. You guys can message me at the upandinitshow@gmail.com. Let me know what you guys want to hear about. If this stuff's boring to you, then I'll stop doing it. You guys got to understand, I have no measurement of how many listens, how many views and stuff like this on the podcast goes. I do get it on YouTube, and it's not looking too good, right? I'm not getting any messages. I'm giving people a way to contact me. We've got nothing. So the way I figure, this is things that people don't really care to hear about. So I need to know what you guys want to know about. What you guys want to hear about. So, hey, guys, that's the show. I've got to park in here. It's Friday for me. It's time for a beer. upandinitshow@gmail.com. Let me know how I'm doing for you guys. If you guys like this thing, it's Up and In It Show, or Up and In It on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and anywhere where you can find the podcasts. As I always say, guys, go out there and have yourself a near-life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. Human up. Live it, love it, own it.